Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, horse is real. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the announcement of Everybody One to Switch, and then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about our favorite Nintendo minigame collections. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. Do you think that we're jumping the gun by doing our favorite Nintendo minigame collections before Everybody One to Switch is released?
I don't. I mean, we'll get into it today, and we'll get into it on Thursday, and maybe every episode for the rest of our lives. We won't drill into it right now in this segment of the show, but it's such a strange announcement. It feels like such a strange choice. I don't know. I just don't know how to respond.
I know.
To it. It's crazy. It's crazy, Mark. How was your weekend?
It was good. I mean, you and I went and saw Spider-Man Across the Multiverse. Spider-Verse.
It's a Spider-Verse specifically.
Yeah, no. It makes total sense.
Right.
With a guest in front of the show, Ryan Mogi, and Sarah as well. That was a great time.
Yeah, we had a good little team going to the movies together. Alamo Drafthouse.
That's right.
It was a great time.
It was a good time.
Mark, you didn't get anything to eat at the Alamo Drafthouse.
I didn't.
They were like, "Do you want to start a tab?" And you were like, "No. Tab for me."
And I think they were taken aback a little bit.
I mean, I was taken aback a little bit. I was because I just. I'm going to Alamo, and I'm like, okay, part of the thing here is like
totally
you get something.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging your choice there at all.
No, I'll tell you. So I really, for the past week, have been just craving a chocolate milkshake.
Right.
And I don't eat ice cream that much. I don't really like ice cream. It's not something I crave.
Bizarre.
But I really was like, yes, chocolate milkshake for like a week. And I got to Alamo and I was prepared to get a chocolate milkshake, but I'm also operating off of this diet thing where it's not really a diet, but basically like if I feel like I'm craving something, to me that is a sign that I should not eat it. So if it's like, oh, I'm really craving French fries, and it's like, well, I don't need French fries, so I should not eat that. And that's how I feel about a milkshake.
Don't you think the opposite could be true? If you're really craving something, that could be your body telling you that you need it.
That like I need a chocolate milkshake. My body was just like, in order for me to continue to function
correctly. I think you're putting your health in danger by not having this chocolate milkshake.
Hey. If Dr. Ellers told me so,
let's not start that.
That feels like permission. But no, so that's why I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to get the chocolate milkshake. And at that point, I was like mad at myself, and so and I was like, well, then I'm not going to get anything,
just to punish me further. That's very monastic, right? Oh, speaking of punishing yourself further, we've got a Patreon. I don't mean that. I love our Patreon, and I love the content we're putting out there. And I love the people who are supporting us there. If you would like to be among them, you can go to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where we just concluded our NCS Detective Club series, having a wonderful long conversation with the aforementioned Ryan Mogi about 2 wonderful episodes of Columbo. So you can check those out. And all previous episodes of NCS Detective Club are all available there now if you support us at the 8-bit or the 16-bit levels.
That's right. And there's a bunch of other great rewards there. And we'll be starting a new mini-series in July where we're talking about different Broadway musicals. Tony Award-winning Broadway musicals.
Tony Award-winning.
But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who is a Patreon supporter, and thank you to everyone who just listens to the show in general. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Also, if you want to be a more plugged-in part of that community, you can join our Discord by emailing us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. If you're unfamiliar with Discord, don't worry about it. Mark and I didn't know anything about Discord when we started it. Now, over a year ago at this point.
That's so crazy.
Is that alarming?
I can't believe we waited so long. It's been such a fun thing to have.
Yeah, and it's like just a nice, fun, friendly environment where anytime there's Nintendo news, people are talking about what it means. Anytime that there's it's a lot of Tears of the Kingdom stuff now. But yeah, just get in there, have fun conversations with other like-minded dorks who are interested in talking about Nintendo stuff. Everyone's real nice. Also, speaking of everyone is real nice, Mark and I were just on the Super Gamer Boys Super Metroid book club thing. We had a great conversation about Super Metroid, a game that is very near and dear to my heart, and to Adrian of the Super Gamer Boys Club's heart. And I know, Mark, you liked it as well.
I'm newer to Super Metroid, honestly.
Right. It's just like it's part of like my DNA and part of Adrian's DNA. I think like the game is just like rewired both of our brains. But if you are a member of their Patreon, you can check that out now. It's available now. And then we've got a little programming update. Next 2 weeks, we will not be putting out news episodes.
That's right. Taking a little summer break.
There will be topic episodes on the Thursday, and we think those are going to be fun and fulfilling episodes. But no news. And Mark, are you a little? I'm a little worried because it's June. We don't have any real reason to suspect there's going to be a June Nintendo Direct, right?
Right.
I've not heard any rumblings. No one's like, but when's that? We're all just sort of accepting like Nintendo did what they're going to do for the summer. It was called Zelda. And everything else is just going to, like every other publisher is going to do something. Nintendo probably not.
That's what, yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah.
For sure. Plus, they just put out, like the Everybody 1-2 Switch announcement, which we'll get to. But, it kind of feels like then they have Pikmin already announced for July.
Right.
So it just feels like they have their ducks in a row for a little bit and could wait until later in the summer or September or whatever to do like another Direct. But all of that is to say that even though we will be on summer break and there was no planned news episode, there's always the chance that something happens, in which case we will pull that ripcord and we'll record an emergency episode.
And we will get on the phone. We will call into our editors and they will type up the piece as we dictate it to them.
That's right.
So, yeah, if news breaks, we will, if like a Direct happens, we'll hop on and figure something out. But otherwise, just one episode for the next 2 weeks. And like I said, they should be good. Mark, we got an email from Stephen Woodson. And hold on. I'm pulling up the email. I should have pulled this up before I said that we have an email. Stephen writes, "Howdy, Patrick and Mark. On your recent post Tears of the Kingdom 2023 episode, Patrick mentioned that he would, quote, never in a million years, unquote, try the Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy. And I'm here to make a very brief pitch for it.
I love this.
I could go on and on about how it is the best Pokemon spinoff and better than all the mainline Pokemon games, but I'll leave that aside. Instead, I want to pitch you on the soundtrack. I'd argue that the Pokemon trading card game and its Japan exclusive sequel have the two greatest Game Boy soundtracks, but I'd even go as far as claiming that they stand among the all-time great video game soundtracks. Maybe that'll be reason enough to start the game. You don't even have to play it, just enjoy the music. But seriously, I think everyone should play whatever interests them. Maybe just check out the soundtrack on YouTube. Thank you for indulging me. Keep up the awesome show. Can't wait to hear your reactions when Rift of the Donkey Konga finally gets announced. Cheers, Steve-O." I had not considered that there was going to be that could be a way in to the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah, I hadn't either. But that's amazing news to me. When I'm working, I listen to a ton of video game music, and I'm always looking for new ones to throw into the rotation. And so I've got to check this out.
Cue it up, Mark. All right, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Tetris 99 ticket update. I'm not doing it anymore.
Right. Yep. That's right.
We're taking a break. I will say that I crossed the 800 barrier.
Oh, okay, great.
So, but like how long it's taken me to do that, how much further I should be at this point.
Where over the 800 barrier you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I at 801? We don't know. We don't know. I'm not telling.
No, because it's not a segment anymore.
No, and honestly, this segment, this What Are We Playing is like what's going on in Tears of the Kingdom.
It is so true. That is all that I have been playing.
Yeah, and like frequently it is like all I can think about. Mark, there's something I want to address right away here. Okay. So last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that you had been to the Forgotten Temple, the one that's like in the in like the gorge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like in the northwest side of and you were like sort of lamenting that in Breath of the Wild it was this like an amazing
it just
thing
felt
to
so
find.
Mysterious and like crazy, and there's so many guardians in there and you're like, what is this thing?
Yes, totally. And then when you go in Tears of the Kingdom, you're like, oh, okay, like there's just some like bokoblins in here. Did you go all the way inside and like into the back and like encounter Impa and her assistant and do all the stuff in there?
I don't know if I did. There's like a shrine, and then that's where they give you spoilers.
Sure.
But that's where they give you the quest to like, hey, look, here's all the different like drawings on the ground, and you should.
Sure. I feel like but you kind of get that quest way earlier in the game too, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I just didn't, because like when I got to that room, which felt like the Game of Thrones opening, right, with this like model of Hyrule,
yeah, totally,
to, like,
totally
swoop around and like, look at all of it. I was like, what was Mark talking about? This is so cool.
Oh, that's
great. I was very excited by it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I guess like because, like you said, you see Impa for the first time and go up in the balloon, and you like get the first tier, like all that stuff, and then they're like, hey, we're gonna go to the Forgotten Temple. And so when I went to the Forgotten Temple and they were there, I was just like, cool, like that's what you said was gonna happen, and sure enough, that's what happened. So yeah, no, I mean, I thought like I'm glad that you. Thought it was really cool.
I was very excited by it, and I think maybe part of it was because I've been doing a lot of those. Like every time I see one of those on the map, I'm like, I'm gonna get it right away. And which is strange because like they're not the most. It's not fun to just like run around those drawings on the ground until you find the puddle. Right?
No, it's not. Especially like the first time I tried to do one after. Because I have not done that many of them, but the first time I tried to do one after the first one with Impa, where like you're up in the hot air balloon and it's so obvious which one it is.
It's the tier.
Yeah, and then I did another one, and I like went to the tier, or what I thought was the tier, a tier, and it was not the tier,
right?
And so then I was like, oh, I actually have to like run around on this thing until I find it,
right? So I've probably done like half of them. Just
okay.
And so like seeing this like giant Game of Thrones map on the floor, and like seeing the positions of all of them, and like the sort of inscriptions of all of them on the walls, it just like it did such a like compact job of like unifying the world to me, that I got like re-excited about like trying that again.
Because I've only done like 2 other ones after that initial one, it is so easy. And I guess it was this way in Breath of the Wild too. It must have been, but I just don't remember it. Like the story is such like a non-factor. Like the stuff that's happening in it is feels so at this point. I'm sure it all like comes together in some way, but like just feels so removed from what you're actually like doing in the world. Yeah. And then there's the stuff where like, oh yeah, like Ganon's here, and he's like. Mustering the Gerudo forces to send enemies to attack right. It just the Zonai, and it feels the stuff that I've seen anyways. I just feel so removed from everything else that's going on.
See, I'll be interested to hear your reaction when you have had a couple more of them, because I do think they kind of fall into that like normal Ganon's forces are gathering, like to that pile, and then like the other pile where it's like, what's Zelda up to? And the what's Zelda up to of it is much more interesting to me.
Got it.
So yeah, I'm interested to hear when you've experienced a couple more of those. What else have you been up to in Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, it's just been a continued. I think last week I was like, I'm going to continue the story. That is what I'm going to do.
Right.
I have made a valiant attempt, but I spent basically the entire week just being like, okay, I'm going to go to the Zora Kingdom. I'm gonna go to the Zora Kingdom. I'm gonna go to the Zora Kingdom.
Yeah.
And doing everything but going to the Zora Kingdom.
Right.
Like I got some more shrines. I did some more towers. I finally went to Kakariko Village. And once I got to Kakariko Village, I was like, well, now I gotta do everything that everybody in Kakariko Village wants me to do. Right. And then some of that was like, oh, I gotta go to I'm blanking on what like the other big Hateno Village. Like then I gotta do everything that's going on there because there's stuff going on in Hateno Village. Plus you can upgrade like your it's not called Sheikah Slate anymore, but Pura Pad.
Pura Pad.
You can upgrade that, and so I'm like, well, I want to get these upgrades,
right?
And so but finally last night, actually, I made it to the Zora Kingdom.
Yes.
And
I have not, but
okay.
I and this is your second temple.
This is my second temple. Yeah.
I just love because I did the fire temple with the Gorons. And I love like an actual like real in the world demonstration of us approaching the temples in different orders. Like,
yeah, totally.
I don't know why that is so satisfying to me, but like you will get to the Goron thing later. Probably. And I'll get to the Zora thing later, and we'll just have different sets of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Like different tool sets to get through it. When you had talked about briefly last week, the Goron Kingdom and how the approach for you was not as good as the one to the Rito in the Rito Village. Mm-hmm. And I've got to say the same is true for, the Zora Kingdom for me. That's how I'm feeling about it is like, I think I haven't done the Gerudo one yet. I haven't done the Goron one yet. So, maybe I'll feel differently. But I'm guessing, and this was actually my feeling about Breath of the Wild 2, is that the Rito, well, actually, that's not true. I loved the approach to the Divine Beast in the Zora Kingdom. We were riding on Prince Sidon's back. Yeah. Like, that was so cool.
That's very cool.
But, I think that Rito Village and that might be, like, the high point of entering a...
That's very interesting, because when you played Breath of the Wild, do you remember which Divine Beast you did first?
I actually did Rito first.
You did Rito first,
yeah.
Okay.
But I put off doing Divine Beast until, like, way late in the game, which was, like... I think my thinking was like, oh, I'm just gonna like power up and like all that kind of stuff. But getting the powers that you get from doing Divine Beast,
useful.
And same for doing the temples are like super useful for
exploring
the world,
and traversing. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I did the Zora first in Breath of the Wild and the Rito first here, and in both those cases, I felt like the game was pushing me towards them. That like the Zora was just like. That's where the game led me. But I also don't know if like that was just because that's where I was walking and like you meet like Prince Sidon on like a bridge or something, and that just like kicks off the that whole quest line in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember the opening of Breath of the Wild that well, but I definitely feel like Tears of the Kingdom guides you towards Rito Village.
It absolutely does.
In the beginning, everybody's like, "What's going on in Rito Village?" Like,
hey, those bird people are weird, right?
Yeah, hey, you hear about this newspaper? Everybody's talking about this newspaper,
right.
And it's outside of Rito Village. So I definitely feel like it takes you there. I do think that one thing that's been fun through my entire Tears of the Kingdom experience, and I continue to have this feeling where sometimes I'm like, oh, I like going back to Kakariko Village, going back to the Forgotten Temple, going back to Hateno Village, like it doesn't capture those same emotions it did in Breath of the Wild.
Sure.
But there are also times where like I went back to the Zora Kingdom and I was like, it's cool to see how this has changed. It's cool to see how these characters are like different. Like you check back in with like Prince Sidon and like all that kind of stuff. And so it's a like I don't feel one way about like them using the same Hyrule again. You know, like
you can feel multiple ways.
Yeah. But I like the stuff that I'm doing in the Zora Kingdom is interesting. Like I'm enjoying it. I am really close to the temple, but I am not at the temple yet.
Yeah.
I'm at like I think where I'm at is like, do you remember in the Rito one, there's like a shrine and then you do the last thing to get, the last like sail
like
jumping.
The last checkpoint before the temple.
And that's where I'm at right now. Although it seems like the approach to the temple itself is going to be much more straightforward, like less involved than the Rito one was.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of the culmination of that sail jumping that you have to do.
Right. Well, that is very interesting to me because like the approach to the air temple is all up in the sky, right? And like it's using that, like the new feature of the game is like the stuff in the sky.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with this like you're so high up and like everything is
Yeah.
where you're like I could tumble down to the
Uh-huh.
earth. And the Goron, the light spoiler for the setting of the fire temple here is in the depths.
Got it.
So like it's like the two extremes, the two new extremes, very high and very low, are represented in the air and fire temple.
Well, I guess minor spoilers for the Zora Kingdom one.
Yeah.
It also is an ascent. Like
Okay,
you are going
all right.
up into the sky.
Into that storm, maybe.
It's not. I don't know what the deal with the storm is.
Okay, all right,
because
all
it's
right,
not like it's not over the Zora Kingdom.
Oh, fascinating.
Which I assumed it was, but it's not.
It's kind of over like the jungle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All
and
right,
so,
all right.
but yeah, there in the sky, there's that big like vortex, like cyclone of storm, and
Yeah.
I assumed that, but it is not. And so it'll be interesting what like the Gerudo
Maybe
temple
back
is.
into
Maybe
the
it's
depths,
back in the
yeah.
depths. But other than that, like not. It's just been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Like, what else have I been up to?
Yeah.
So I went. I had finished with the Gorons, and I was like doing some other like kind of Goron-y stuff. I finally did my first like aiding the like Monster Hunter Brigade. I hadn't cleared an encampment with those guys. It was super fun, way easy because I've been playing the game for like 50 hours.
Can I ask you a question? Because you just finished the Goron one, and in your playthrough of Breath of the Wild, you used outfits like way more than I did, like armor sets to get like those stat boots. And is that also been a focus for you in Tears of the Kingdom? And sub question to that: are there a lot of different armor sets than what existed in Breath of the Wild, or is it not really?
So there are some different armor sets, and I'm still like that is still going to be one of my goals as I like do everything or do the things that I do, is to get all the armor sets and level them up. And yeah, I'm still very much like driving towards having them. Like as soon as I could afford the Flamebreaker armor, like I did that instead of like just down potions, right?
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, I love having like the right outfit for the right scenario. And like I'll go into because I've got the barbarian top right now, but that's the only piece of barbarian armor that I have. And so like I'll put that on and then like mix it with if I'm in like the frozen north, then I've got like the warm pants, and then I've got a headdress that gives me like plus damage for cold attacks. So like when it's cold, I deal more attack damage. So like I'm switching that stuff out all the time to like optimize for the environment or for the individual encounter I'm doing. I love the I only have one piece of the frog suit right now, but I love putting that bad boy on when it starts raining so I can keep climbing. But yeah, no, I love that stuff. And since all of that is tied to the fairies, and the fairies are all tied to uniting the band, I'm at a little bit of a standstill right now because I just don't know where this drummer is. I know he's somewhere, and I know someone has told me that they heard him somewhere. I just didn't like clock it. So at some point, I got to loop back around and find that drummer. But so yeah, I've upgraded some sets of armor, but and collected some like stranger ones, but not all of them. I did find the fierce deity mask.
Oh, okay.
Which is in. So this is where I headed next after doing the Goron stuff. I like sort of continued hanging out in the northeast of the map, the like Akala Highlands. Highlands. And I absolutely loved the like shrine hunting up there. There's so many of them, and like it just, I don't know, it felt like bountiful. It was just awesome. But what was I just talking about that led me to this?
The mask, the fierce deity.
Yes, the fierce deity mask. So there was like this giant like pillar of stone that just like jutted out of like a canyon. And I got all the way over to it, and there's like an opening in the top of it, and I just dropped like all the way down, and there was a cave down there, and it was a nice big cave, and at the end of it was the fierce deity mask. But and like a stone talus or whatever to fight. And I've been engaging in stuff like that just all over the world, and it feels great. Sunday. I fought the ice Gleeok in like the frozen tundras in the north for one of the like Zelda missions.
Gleeok?
The Gleeok is the 3-headed dragon.
Oh, I've seen those and I
Yes.
have avoided them.
So I have traditionally been too, but so I'm in the like Yerba Highlands, right? Or it's just like it's even like beyond that where it's just like tundra, right? The like furthest north points on the map. And the stable there, they're like the Zelda thing there is that like she was training a golden horse that has like run away, and like I would go after it myself, but there's a flying terrible 3-headed ice dragon that like is terrorizing the area, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna kill this thing, and I did it, and it was so hard, and I used like so many like potions and stuff. But mostly I was using a bow that shoots 3 arrows at once, and always fusing the fire Keese eyes, because it's like elementally damaging to the Gleeok and hones in on it, and he shoots 3 at one time. So it's a really good way to like interrupt its attacks and like get it down on the ground and just start like beating the heck out of it. But it felt like a huge victory to me to kill one of these things. And I'm just like that kind of stuff where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take on this new challenge that I've been seeing in the corner of my eye, and actually accomplish it. Like, feels great.
That's so fun.
The game's so good.
Last week, and maybe at the beginning when we started talking about it, you brought it up, and then we got sidetracked. But last week we talked about I recommended that you go into the depths and do.
I did not.
Okay, so you still don't. You still haven't completed the wheel.
That's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Still haven't completed the wheel. I fought a couple more of the those like stone construct, or, like cube construct guys in the sky. I'm taking pictures of ancient text and showing them to the guy in the outpost landing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I know I have to go back into the depths and to finish the Puropad powers, but I just haven't. You just like keep getting distracted by stuff, right?
Totally. One thing that I know that I am not building as many things as I could be, because sometimes there's like a Korok who is like, I need to see my friend, and they show you where the smoke is, and it's like way over there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. Because I'm just like, it's like,
yeah.
I think it speaks to the strength of Tears of the Kingdom that you can play this game in so many different ways, because there are so many areas out in the world where you could, like, there's things for you to build vehicles, and like there's all this stuff that's out there, and I am just not playing the game that way at all. Like I build vehicles when I have to build vehicles, but otherwise I'm not like that's not really how I'm experiencing it.
Yeah.
And so I think with a lot of those Korok things, it's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to figure out how to like efficiently get them over there. I'm like, I'm not that interested in doing that right now.
Here's the thing. I think like 9 times out of 10, you can just throw down a glider, steering stick,
strap it to a rocket,
and then the rocket throws you up into the air, and then you just steer it down towards the.
Yeah, no, you totally could. It's just like I still don't love like creating vehicle. Like it's sometimes fun to figure out, like you're saying, like for some of the Sky Island shrines, you have to figure out how do I get it, from this island that's over there and like glide it down to here or whatever. And those are like sometimes fun to do, but I just really do not interact with the world in a way where I'm thinking like, oh, I can build like I forget that I can fuse things to my shield. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I just feel like I'm not
fusing a rocket to my shield is something I do all the time.
See, I don't even like, it is just not really how I have been. And when I remember that I can do it, I'm like, oh yeah, I should be doing this all the time.
Because you just get so much height.
But that's how I am with like elixirs. That's how I am with the armor sets. It's like I don't really think about that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's just not how I Breath of the Wild was the same way. Like there were systems in there that I didn't think about, but then like towards the end of the game, I was like, why was I not cooking this whole time? And that's how I think like Tears of the Kingdom will be, is there will be some stuff where I'm like, once it clicks, then, but I'm still, I just haven't got that far yet.
Pre-click on a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's true with me for like most RPGs, where there's like some system in there where as soon as I do start taking advantage of it, I'm like, oh, if I'd been doing this all along, I'd be invincible by now.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that way about like the forging mechanic in Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. Did I do that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. I discovered that like 40 or 50 hours in and was like, oh, wait a minute. I can't believe I just hadn't been making my weapons better. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I have not, but I'm wondering if you have. Last week we talked about, I can't remember what they're called, but it's another collectible that's found in the Sky Island. Like
another
a lot of times,
orb thing, yeah.
And a lot of times in like pools of water that you have to like drain and then collect it. And if you get 4, something happens. I still am just at 3. Have you collected 4?
No, I only have 1.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure because I still don't know what it does.
I think it does something. I think you pray with them. Did you? No, we talked about this a little bit this weekend. Sorry, I'll finish what I was saying. I think you pray with them to the statues, and then it does something to your relationship with the like buddies that you have along with you.
Oh, got it.
That maybe like their cooldown is faster.
Oh,
or
sure,
something like that.
Yeah.
But I did find the sort of like evil statue under Outpost Landing. And then like continued in those caves for a very long time, probably like an hour of digging through those caves, and like getting under Hyrule Castle. And I don't really have a sense of like where the end game of this game takes place. Whereas like Breath of the Wild is like, oh yeah, always we're gonna get back to like Hyrule Castle, and now I'm just like, I have no concept. Is it in the sky? Is it in the depths? I don't know.
When does it? When?
What a great question.
Yeah.
Yes. Am I traveling through time? Am I meeting Zelda somewhere, giving her a high five? Like, who know? What?
Yeah. It's all got to come back. I'm telling you, at some point, I will be like flabbergasted if it doesn't end with like Zelda and Link back in the area underneath Hyrule Castle they were exploring at the beginning, and that mural that was obscured by rocks had been revealed, and it's like Link and Zelda, in the past, like there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I have a slightly different theory about that, but I think I've got more information than you. I don't want to give anything away. All right, Mark, we've talked so much about Tears of the Kingdom.
And you will do it again
next week. Do you want to do a little more? Yeah, we'll do it again next week. I'm traveling this weekend.
That's right. Never mind. We won't do it next week because we already said.
What a great point. We're not going to do it for like 3 weeks.
Yep.
Oh my God. I may explode in the meantime.
I feel like we may just need to call each other and decompress.
That's a great point. All right. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and, what we might be playing next week.
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance.
Because we, surprise yesterday on Monday, got 4 new games for Nintendo Switch Online.
4 new games for the not expansion pack.
That's right. If you're a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber of any level, these games are all accessible to you. So on the Game Boy, Kirby Tilt and Tumble and Blaster Master Enemy Below are both released.
Here's a Blaster Master game for Game Boy. I didn't even know there was a Blaster Master game on Game Boy.
And Tilt and Tumble is the one that was for Game Boy Color that used a gyroscope, I think.
Yes, so there's a gyroscope, or there was a gyroscope in the cartridge itself. So yeah, obviously they're just using the
gyroscope in the Joy-Con.
Absolutely. And I believe Master Blaster Enemy Below is also a Game Boy Color game.
Oh, okay.
The footage of it that they showed in the trailer was like using the sort of like dynamic color of the Game Boy Color.
And then for the NES, for the Nintendo Entertainment System, we got a previously Japanese exclusive game, Mystery Tower.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
I will, whenever they do one of these, I'm going to try it out. Why do they never put Mysterious Murasame Castle?
I have no idea.
They have to at some point, right?
Yeah, it does feel so strange to me to put some of these more Mystery Tower, great.
Sure.
Living for it. But why not put
the Mysterious Murasame Castle unless they're like making a remake of it or something?
Yeah. That's true. And then finally for the Super Nintendo, the original Harvest Moon is released.
I love this game. I love the original Harvest Moon. I'm very excited to, put like an hour into it and then not touch it anymore. But it's that was the sort of introduction to me that there could be a type of game that wasn't like you fighting stuff, or that you could have like a peaceful, fun, bucolic game. So I'm interested to check it out at least for a little while.
Yeah, and this was we were talking about great games for soundtracks and earlier, and this is just a reminder to me that hey, I should pull up the Harvest Moon soundtrack.
Yeah,
because I love that the Super Nintendo like sound font. So I think that's pretty much it. That as far as like notable new releases go this week, is there anything that you wanted to call out?
No, not really. I did just want to check against my list of the NSO games that have been released. Obviously, we just had the Game Boy Advance games come out really just like 2 weeks ago. The Super Mario Advance, but the last time we got a sort of download like this with 2 Game Boy games, 1 NES, 1 Super NES, was in the middle of March. So it was March 15th is when Kirby's Dream Land 2, Burger Time Deluxe, ZVS, and Side Pocket came out.
Oh, how interesting that's kind of the grouping, because that was like 3 months ago, like a quarter ago.
Yeah. So
how interesting that's I've never really clocked that's like a regular grouping that they do.
Well, it is now. It couldn't have been a regular grouping because the Game Boy wasn't part of this lineup before. So I'm guessing that the next time we'll see another set of these will be September.
Were Kirby Tilt and Tumble and Blaster Master Enemy Below in the list of like previously announced Game Boy games coming?
Mark, what a great question. Let's
or is this another example of them being like, these games are coming, but first we're going to put out these that we didn't talk about?
Hold on. Let me clear all these. Just look at the Game Boy games. Mark, this list is paying for itself. Okay. Okay, the Game Boy games. Tilt and Tumble, yes.
Okay.
But that's it.
Oh, so giving us a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. One of each, yeah. The other ones on the Game Boy are the Pokemon trading card game and Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Those are the only other ones.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see if they drop those together or what exactly. And then Japan, of course, has had teased the frog for whom the bell tolls, but we're not going to get that in the States. So I will update the list with these new release dates, and the
list is just getting stronger. We're just gathering more information.
More info. It's
going to be predictive at some
point.
Perfect.
Yes, we're going to be like Deathstroke. We're going to learn how our opponent fights. And then we can fight
it's just going to like run itself. We're just going to push the button, and it'll be like I
predict.
Yeah.
Game and Watch Gallery 2. All right, Mark. Let's get out of the new releases. No, we're never going to let AI replace us, of course. This brings us to a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performer didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, I wanted to set aside some time for us to actually talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So if you haven't had an opportunity to see it yet, like probably just skip ahead here.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
We'll just go full spoilers here. This segment lasts about 4.5 minutes. So just like broad strokes, I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. That movie is, I remember really, I've only seen the first one once and it was in theaters. I remember being blown away and loving it, but I was even more blown away by this one. Like, this movie's so impossibly cool, and I left it being like, why? Like, beforehand, and I haven't seen it. It's it'll probably be very good. But there was a trailer for Elemental, the new Pixar movie that comes out next Friday. Before it, and I was just like, who cares? Who cares about this? Like, Across the Spider-Verse is It's so visually like inventive and emotionally effective, and you're like, why can't all movies be like this?
Yes. I mean, it's and not to continually rag on the Super Mario Brothers movie because I feel like I've just started like defaulting to like, but like Across the Spider-Verse is just as Easter egg dense as the Super Mario Brothers movie, but it takes the time to tell like a deeply emotional, like personally effective and affecting stories, where like what character do I have a deeper relationship with? Mario or Spider-Gwen? And the answer is Mario because I've known him forever. Spider-Gwen didn't exist like 7 or 8 years ago, right? Like she came out of the Spider-Verse event that Dan Slott was writing for Marvel. And I've liked that character for a couple years. But like seeing her story play out on screen as like subtly and as emotionally impactful as it was, like made me feel like I was connecting with a character that I've known my whole life. Right? Like
Yeah.
it's just a good movie. It's just good.
It's so, and it is like visually and like the soundtrack it's like wall-to-wall music, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's wall-to-wall music, and like so frequently is like visually trading in like the sort of language of like music video almost. Like there are so many like pieces of it that are like montage or like sort of done up in the like comics on screen style, or is just like an action sequence set to music that like I don't it has the sort of like dense energy of a music video.
It's really, beforehand there was also a trailer for the new Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah.
Which is an animated film,
Mutant Mayhem,
produced by Paramount. I don't know the studio that's animating it, but one thing that I thought was cool about that is that it also has like a unique art style that to me feels very indebted to kind of like the kind of work that they've been doing on these Spider-Verse movies. And I like that. Like I like that there's like these different styles, but there's no movie that looks like Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, well, because part of that is because there are no two parts of Across the Spider-Verse that look like each other.
Yeah,
right?
Everybody's like story, every character kind of has its own aesthetic.
Right. And like even if we were just like spending the whole time in like Spider-Punk's universe and like seeing everything animated in the style of that character, that would be unique and striking, and you'd be like, wow, I can't believe a whole movie looks like this.
Yeah.
And ditto like Spider-Gwen, like they're affecting a lot of the same like inky coloriness that the original Spider-Gwen miniseries like also adopted. So it's just like I don't know, it is doing like 10 unique things and then jamming them together into an even more unique thing.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. A great flick. All right, we were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Okay, first, Patrick, just the facts.
Just the facts. No commentary.
No commentary, just what we know to be true.
Facts, yes.
So last week, Nintendo announced on Twitter, everybody want to Switch.
Everybody want to Switch.
A sequel to the Switch launch title, Want to Switch.
Yep.
The game releases on June 30th and will cost $29.99 in the US. It's available.
Just the facts right now.
Yes.
These are just the facts.
It's available for pre-order now on the eShop, where there are 2 marketing images and no trailer, no gameplay video has been released.
These are just the facts now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's how Nintendo describes it. So this is a great moment in copywriting. Quote, "Wanna party? Break out the Nintendo Switch system and laugh it up at your next game night. Mix up your next get-together with the Everybody Want to Switch game. Grab some Joy-Con controllers or smart devices for team-based games that are easy to set up and feature everything from balloons to aliens and more. People at your next party can get moving and show off their teamwork in this multiplayer mashup. A mix of games and modes to keep you on your toes. Use Joy-Con controllers or smart devices, team up, and let the games begin. Split into teams and see what group can win a certain number of games first. Many games have several variations that change up the rules or add extra challenge," end quote.
Are we still in just facts?
We're still in just the facts.
Still in just the facts. Okay, great.
One of the marketing images prominently features what appears to be a person wearing a rubber horse mask.
Yeah, and you know the rubber horse mask that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Picture rubber horse mask. That's what they're wearing.
The game is rated E for everyone. And we're just running down the facts.
The
The game file size is 3.3 gigabytes.
Okay.
So those are the facts.
We have them.
Now
we understand.
Here's everything else.
Here we go.
So almost exactly 1 year ago, and we talked about it on the show, reporter Imran Khan published a story on fanbyte.com about a reportedly cursed sequel to 1-2 Switch that Nintendo had developed and was just sitting on after it tested like horribly. Way worse than anybody expected.
And here are the facts from Imran's article. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Imran Khan's article.
Which have all basically proven out to be true, as far as we know.
From what we can tell.
Yeah.
Again, what Mark read earlier, the description and the 2 images that we've seen, that's all that we know about the game. We are now stapling from Khan's reporting
from a year ago.
Yeah. Onto that. Who knows how much of that has changed? Who knows how much of that was accurate even at the time that he was reporting it?
Okay.
Okay.
So from the article, the game takes inspiration from the Jackbox party games.
Seems evident.
True.
Yes, smart devices, yes.
Features a host character named Horse, a person wearing a rubber horse mask who provides color commentary during the games.
Sure.
According to the article, this led to the game being referred to as Horse, a word I don't say on this show, as shorthand during the localization process. Reportedly, the feedback from testing of this game was brutal. From the story, quote, different trusted employees within Nintendo were raising alarms that the game released as is would damage the company's reputation as a great software developer. End quote. And then one more quote from the article.
Yes.
This is kind of where things stood according to Imran's reporting a year ago.
Yes.
Quote, it is unclear what Nintendo plans to do with the game now. Some sources have said Nintendo executives will not be swayed on the idea of a full $60 retail release for the game, citing how well the original 1-2 Switch did in similar circumstances with a poor critical consensus. Some others within the company have suggested making the game an add-on bonus to the higher tier of Nintendo Switch Online, similar to the Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home expansion and the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Pack, especially as the game is so dependent on online play for massive lobbies. The quality might matter less, sources argue, if no one is actually paying anything extra for it. That question may already be decided internally by the time of writing, but the answer won't be publicly known until Nintendo announces the game and its plans for it. It is entirely possible to never announce the game, take its losses, and quietly shelve it. Our sources do not believe that will happen, though, as they suspect Nintendo will try to get the game out there one way or another, end quote. And so here we are.
So now we can talk about, we've laid out the facts. And we've laid out these sort of like speculative facts from a year ago that most of which
seems to line up.
Appear to be true. First thing, I want to go back to the idea of this title. Everybody 1-2 Switch. Not really an intuitive, like, you got to know that's like, if someone says like the sequel to 1-2 Switch, what is it? It's going to be tough for you to come up with everybody 1-2 Switch unless you just know it. One of the good things about the title 1-2 Switch is that as far as discoverability goes, starts with a number. And the number 1, it's at the beginning of the alphabet, right? Like, it just has one of those things where you're like, when you start looking for like first party Nintendo games, you're going to see 1-2 Switch first. Everybody 1-2 Switch, it's all the way down there in the E's, my man. It's tucked away in some Fire Emblems, you know? So, bad title. And also, just like grammatically, it's a mess. Everybody 1-2 Switch.
I will say, I don't know that I would argue it's a mess because it's not like 1-2 Switch is a grammatical home run.
Right.
And so
I'll agree with that.
So saying first of all, I can't believe you're putting me in the position of being the one to defend everybody 1-2 Switch. But I will say, I mean, like, I don't think it's that terrible of a title, especially if the idea is like massive lobbies,
right?
Where you don't have to have like somebody can come over to your house, and I mean, again, we're speculating because Nintendo has said nothing about this game,
right?
But somebody can come over to your house, and you're like, oh, it doesn't matter if you have a Joy-Con or not because you can just play with your phone. Like, I I feel like I get the spirit of the title. Also, I Googled Everybody Want to Switch earlier today, and it was the first thing that came up. So
all right. I mean, but you're Googling the name of it. I also think that and they sentenced themselves to this with the first game, but 1-2 Switch, like space Switch, is an insane way to style this, where it's just like you gotta just know what you're looking for, I think, in order to find it. Okay, so we're split on whether the title is good or not.
Well, I would say the title is fine. I think the title is not the problem.
I think it's actively bad, but also not the problem with this. I will agree. I want to the line in Khan's article that I want to latch onto here is the people were if the game was released as is, it would damage the company's reputation as a great software developer. Releasing it a month after Tears of the Kingdom, a great way to counteract that.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, whether they have made improvements to the game or not,
yes,
based from a year ago, or they are just kind of cutting their losses, which is kind of what it feels like.
It definitely feels
like
that,
a Twitter announcement, at a weird time with no gameplay video, very little information, $30. Like
$30 is
it feels like they're burying it. But
and they're burying it in the shadow of Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, a fine place for anything to be buried, right? I mean, like, yep, like, thank you for your service.
And then you got Pikmin like 2 weeks later.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 weeks later, right? The 21st?
Oh, yeah, 3 weeks later. But it is funny. I mean, how bad does it have to be if they're like, it would damage our reputation as a developer of, like, quality software?
Yes. Yeah, well, and like, but also how not bad could it possibly be if they announce it 4 weeks before it comes out with no images of gameplay as far as we can tell.
Yeah.
And no video.
Yeah. And for $30.
Video.
Yeah, no.
Not even like an example of the kind of mini games that you'll play in it.
Yeah, I just feel like they are definitely cutting their losses. This has like stink all over it.
So where did you pre-order yours from? I gotta say, I am a little bit interested. I mean, first of all, I'm very curious about what the game actually is. So I'll be fascinated to experience that. This feels like one that I kind of want to get physically to have it, because it could be one of those things that, like, after this like initial run of printing it, they never put it out again.
It definitely feels like a like a potential collector's item,
a future like Nintendo curiosity.
Yeah, for sure. Where it's like, man, I wish I would have bought Everybody Want to Switch, because you can't find that game anywhere. Nintendo doesn't talk about it.
Right.
Oh yeah, especially for $30. I completely agree.
Right.
It was just funny to see this like finally released, or like finally announced on some random like Thursday night or whatever it was for $30, and just to be like, oh, seemingly everything that was said in that report from a year ago
is just totally true.
Is completely true.
I mean, this also makes me a little uneasy about the rest of Nintendo's year, because we know, we've seen that like a lot of this year is sort of like stuff that has been like finished, that they are just like strategically deploying and putting out. There was all that reporting / like rumor stuff about the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance libraries like 2 years ago, and the fact that it it finally came out at the beginning of this year. Fire Emblem Engage, we know, was done over a year before, like done and ready to ship over a year before they actually put it out in February or January, whenever that was. And then, the Tears of the Kingdom thing that they had been QAing that for a year, which I don't think they were holding that necessarily. But the other things, I think, is sort of evidence of like Nintendo's year is sort of thin. They're deploying the things that were ready to go, that they'd been sitting on. Metroid Prime is another one.
Yeah.
And that they are now at this point in the year where they're like, we got to also put this, like, it feels like another one that they're just like, we have it. I don't know. There it goes. And like, what's left? Do they have anything else left that's like sitting on the shelf?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like this is, I guess if this were positioned in like August as a $60 game that they're announcing now and like leading up to, then I would be more worried about like what does this foretell. But the fact that they are just like it's $30. I mean, I actually think that this is if they're gonna release this thing. First of all,
this is the way to do
I hope
it.
It turns out. I hope it turns out to be fun. But I think they're actually positioning it really smartly. It's like, yeah, it's $30. 1-2 Switch was super weird. If it wasn't a like launch title, you know, like I don't know that. I mean, who really thinks about it now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
And so I think the way that they're doing it, where it's like, yeah, it's bad, but it's a lot more forgivable than if they were trying to sell it for like $60. You know what I mean?
I mean, well, and not just that, but like it's also not part of a Nintendo Direct. They're not, you know, like there's that one tweet from Nintendo about it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like the like lead up to the release of this, like the marketing is so they're just not doing it. Like, yeah, I think they are just like putting it out to die, which makes me want to buy it even more.
I know. But it also means that like if critics hate it, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like Nintendo's trying to rip people off.
Well, but also aren't they? Because it's let's get to the
like if they know that it's really bad.
No, I mean they know that it's really bad. They're still going to charge $30 for it, which is half as much as they charge for most of their games. And it is cool to see Nintendo exploring the price scale, right? Like Zelda can be $10 more. WarioWare Get It Together can be $50. Didn't they also put out a $40 game? Metroid Prime was $40. This is $30. I think this is cool, right? I like the idea of them having this sort of like larger window, and we've been asking for like cheaper, worse games, like the sort of like 3DS
right.
style games.
A monkey's paw
But oh yeah. So can we please read the next news article, because it is related, and I think is a little bit the way that like Nintendo is trying to rip you off a little bit.
Oh, sure. So Nintendo also revealed 2 new sets of pastel colored Joy-Con, also due out on June 30th. There's pastel purple and pastel green as one pack, right? And then pastel pink and pastel yellow is like a second pack.
Yes.
And they are still $80, and you can pre-order them now.
So these are releasing on the same day as Everybody 1-2 Switch. And those games are obviously going to require a lot of additional Joy-Con for you to play with people, on the same screen in your household. They're not saying these are Everybody 1-2 Switch Joy-Con, but like they sort of are.
Oh, really? I don't view it that way at all.
They're releasing on the same day, and they were announced at the same time.
Yeah, I guess I don't view it that way. Partly because, and I don't know how it works, but partly because you can play Everybody 1-2 Switch with phones. Yeah, that's so true. Like you don't have to buy Joy-Con, and it's not like there's not a cajillion Joy-Con colors out there already.
All of this is absolutely true. I think they were just waiting for something else to tie this beat to.
I do think that they're like, I mean, they're burying the announcement in a buried announcement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, so that way there's it's not just one thing we're tweeting about in the middle of the night on Thursday.
Right.
It's two things.
Right.
And one of them is like Everybody 1-2 Switch, which we seem to be a little bit ashamed of. But then there's also these like pastel Joy-Con colors, which
I gotta say, they look nice.
They do look nice.
There's no way I'm gonna. I have enough Joy-Con at this point. I think I have 3 sets of Joy-Con, one of which I don't really use because they got all drifty on me.
Okay, how much do you know offhand? How much a Pro controller is?
$75.
Oh, it's less.
Yeah.
And then, do you know how much a PlayStation 5 controller is?
Like $100.
Yeah, that's why I'm just wondering.
I think they're also $80.
I'm just wondering if like controllers are also just going to continue to get more and more expensive in the future.
Yeah, probably.
Right, where it's like these are $80. The next ones are going to have even more like things that they can do, like HD Rumble Plus, and then so now they're going to be like 90 and plus inflation, so it's gonna be like $95 for a set of whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm still blown away that they cost $80. That it costs $80,
right?
For
and
Joy-Con.
Like I think the justification is like it's one controller, but it's also kind of 2 controllers. And like the technology in them is still like impressive and good and stuff. But like,
and I guess they haven't raised the price.
Sure.
Like it's been that way since it launched in 2017. So with inflation, we're You're kind of
They're
like
cheaper.
saving money.
Yeah, that's right. You'd be throwing money away to not buy these things. But yeah, I do think the colors of them are cool. I asked Sarah which pairing she preferred, just because I was curious. Like, is there do people have like a preference for one over the other? Well, first I'll just ask you: is there a pair of these that looks better to you than the other?
No, not really.
I think I agree. I like the way the four of them look together, but I think that's it though. Like, I think the four as a set look nice.
I wish I could get just the green. I like the green.
Yeah, the green.
Like if I get a right or left green one, that's I think what I would do.
Yep.
We know that E3 isn't happening this year, but publishers are still holding to the June timeframe for game showcases. And maybe it's timed around Summer Game Fest because that kicks off this Thursday at June 8th at 3 p.m. Pacific time. But then you got Xbox on June 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Ubisoft June 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Capcom June 12th at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So it kind of feels like everybody's just falling into what their E3 timeline would be and like time slot would be. Although we got Sony, although this might be true because Sony hasn't participated in E3 for a while, but like, you know, we got Sony's last week or 2 weeks ago.
Their showcase.
And so it's just interesting to me to see everybody fall into those same E3 rhythms, even though E3 isn't happening.
Yeah. Well, and like it's interesting because I feel like Ubisoft and Capcom have participated in these kinds of showcases before, but frequently don't have like enough to show to really be like an exciting.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the big publishers, Microsoft, Sony, Xbox, or Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, have like pull in all this other stuff from other studios, other publishers, and you know, someone like Ubisoft or Capcom doesn't have that luxury. They can really just show off what they're working on, which is where you get to like, here are the new weapons coming to Monster Hunter Rise or whatever. So I'm not really holding my breath for any of this.
Especially not anything Nintendo related.
Yeah, totally.
Like maybe we'll get Sparks of Hope stuff at Ubisoft's
that makes
conference,
sense.
like DLC. Capcom maybe throw us a bone with some like, you know, port of something.
Hey, there's gonna be some other kind of Mega Man collection of some kind announced.
Right. There's gotta be some Resident Evil game that hasn't hit Switch yet.
Totally. I mean, come on, let's get those Game Boy Mega Man games.
There we go.
Let's do that.
There we go.
Mark, I have changed my ask. This is what I want.
Following up on the story from.
Sorry,
go ahead.
So let's just stay in this for a second.
Yeah.
Because, we said at the top of the show, obviously we're taking off from news for the next 2 weeks. The fact that we have no kind of inkling of a Nintendo Direct, do you feel pretty secure in that there's not going to be a Nintendo Direct in the next 2 weeks?
I do. I don't even think we're going to get like a partner showcase, like the one that we got last year. I just don't think we're going to get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's and like it is interesting to see like everyone else falling into like, yep, well, we'll just do presentations as though E3 is happening. And Nintendo's like, no, we said no, and we're not doing it.
Well, like the IGN's reporting or GameSpot or whatever, their reporting was that part of the reason Nintendo didn't sign up for E3 is because they have a lighter year, Can't do 45 minutes on everybody 1-2 Switch. And Nintendo,
but can you imagine?
Oh man, yeah.
Every horse is here.
I would love Miyamoto is there and he like reveals a horse T-shirt.
I mean, I don't know. This thing could be like such a spectacular disaster that like I don't want to be left out. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think you're right. We got to buy it physically.
We got to buy it physically,
just that way we like have it forever and ever.
That's right.
It'll be like, that really rare. Well, it won't be like this because this is supposed to be a good game and everybody 1-2 Switch is supposed to be a bad game. But there's like Little Samson, which is a Nintendo, an NES game that's supposed to be like great, but is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody 1-2 Switch will turn out to be that, except for a bad game.
Well, and also, like, we haven't done the Sonic Forces borrowing program in a very long time.
Oh my gosh, yes. Everybody 1-2 Switch. We are following the command of Nintendo.
I don't know.
Just not in the way they intended. No, yes. I see you and I hear you. Following up on the story from last week about Aspyr quietly canceling the restored content DLC for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 on Switch, the company finally came out with a statement saying that it is true that the DLC is no longer coming. It is no longer being developed. Players, they kind of as like a make good, players interested in some kind of compensation can claim codes for basically any of the other Aspyr released Star Wars games on Switch or on Steam by submitting a request on their support website.
Yeah, so we talked about this, like you said, a little bit last week, that there was the sort of like fabled restored content in Knights of the Old Republic 2 that had come out, like that mods had done back in the day. And for the re-release on Switch, that Aspyr was going to also bring that restored content to the new version of the game. And they updated the trailer last week to remove any mention of that restored content. This is just them now like acknowledging that and being like, if you want another one of our games, you can get a code for it. Mark, I recently purchased all of these games.
Yeah, I know.
So I got no recourse here. There's also like a game-breaking bug in this thing that like...
That's right, because Alana in the Discord was talking about that she ran into it.
Yeah, and there's no... I mean, maybe that is just a part of the game that'll never go away or be updated.
Yeah. And that really stinks. Like, it's
that
one
really
thing,
stinks,
like, the restored content DLC, but, like, to not fix a game-breaking bug.
Right. Like, to not restore the original content is like, oh, rats, I didn't get the cool thing. But to have a game-breaking bug is like, and a bad thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
So you need to, in order to claim a code as some sort of like recompense for buying this thing that wasn't as feature complete as they originally advertised, you need to show proof of purchase, and you may need to create an Aspyr account. Like, I tried to go through the steps just to like see what the process was, and they asked me to log in.
What possible good could an Aspyr account have other than them just like collecting
having my email
marketing information?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. This feels gross. I don't totally understand what Aspyr is as a company, and I'd like it a little less each passing day.
Finally, Vanpool, the developer behind the Dylan's Rolling Western series and two Tingle spin-off games, freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land and the Japan-exclusive Ripen Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love, is closing its doors. Most recently, they were also a support studio for HAL Laboratory on Super Kirby Clash, Kirby Fighters 2, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. The exact reason for the studio closing isn't known. The statement simply notes like various circumstances. So maybe it was a
certain world events.
Maybe it was a confluence of things that all kind of hit at once.
This doesn't feel like that. This doesn't feel huge to me, right? Like the Dylan's games are Dylan's Rolling Westerns, Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, all of those games. Always feel like sort of duds in Nintendo's lineups. Even if like the character in those worlds are kind of cool, the games are like too complicated and strange to meet much of an audience. However, Tingle.
Yeah. I mean, not that it doesn't feel like there was much hope of a new Tingle game. And yet, I also don't think that this will be like when Alpha Dream filed for bankruptcy, and that was kind of the end of the Mario and Luigi series. Like, there hasn't been a new Tingle game for so long that I think anybody could develop a Tingle game. I still hold out hope for Tingle games in the future.
Sure, right. Just like Chef Gusteau said, anyone can Tingle.
Exactly. Also, thanks to Jake in the Discord for flagging this item. Knew that there was a Tingle interest here and did God's work by alerting us to it.
And then in return, we gave him an Alpha Dream / Mario and Luigi reference. So there we go. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, join our Discord, email us, and we will let you in. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.